So we started this because we fell in love with the whole industry, with the process, with the art of creating cement tiles, with the value, with the history, everything. So I think it's important for me, for our team also, to constantly remind ourselves that what we do is important. We started this not just because we were in it for the business. We started this because we fell in love with the whole industry, with the process, with the art of creating cement tiles, with the value, with the history, everything. So I think it's important for me, for our team also, to constantly remind ourselves that what we do is important. Our work that we put into, it's important. We're literally carrying Indonesia's cultural heritage. It's not something that you should, take lightly about. So I think keeping that in mind really gets me going every day.
Not many business products have a role in preserving local cultural heritage. In the process, local cultural heritage has continued to increase in value, not only in terms of economy, but also in terms of local cultural wealth. This is what is firmly entrenched in Tegel Kunci products.
Tegel Kunci is a classic cement tile manufacturer. Tegel Kunci actually started in 1927, and over the time it has gone through many ups and downs. So it was taken over by the government for a bit. It was owned by a private owner for a bit, and then we took over in the 1990s after Tegel Kunci basically struggled to stay afloat in the middle of the 70s and 80s during the ceramic boom. So we took over, and then basically what we had to do is to start everything from scratch to revitalize the factory, the producing process and everything, because I think my family values Tegel Kunci as cement tiles, not just as building materials. But they see it as an art of its own. So for almost 100 of years, many generations of craftsmen has gone through this process of making tiles and putting it into all the important buildings in Indonesia, and we didn't want this industry to just, go to die for nothing. So the aim was to make sure that this industry lives on and that we can preserve the national heritage of Indonesia, of course. Tegel Kunci's forte is definitely in its originality, quality, history, and experience overall over time. Some of our tiles are literally has been installed there in the same place for almost 100 years. So quality is something that, it's up there. It's very important to us. We wouldn't want to compromise it. And I think another thing that is also our benefit and plus points for Tegel Kunci is that it's very eco-friendly. The whole process involves very minimal machineries, so that's just very green. And also, the natural characteristic of tiles itself, it's actually cooling. So the tiles have pores, so it actually suits the hot and tropical climate in Southeast Asia. So we support kind of, the green movement, because using these tiles here in Southeast Asia, we don't really need to use AC anymore. It's pretty cold and nice already. So those I think are the main plus points. I think the most difficult part of the process is actually creating the mold itself. So because all of the mold are very delicate, it needs to be thin enough, but it needs to be bendy enough so that it can adjust to the motifs. A lot of our motifs are floral, as you can see. So creating that is very, delicate process. And then after that, pouring the color into those moldings, I think are the most delicate, process of all. Because once you put in the wrong color, then you have to start all over again.
Setelah dibuat cetakan itu kan prosesnya kalau kita kan ada beberapa jenis ya, ada polos, ada motif juga ya. Itu nanti didiamkan atau dikeringkan itu selama 12 jam dulu. Terus setelah besok paginya itu direndam selama 24 jam. Setelah 24 jam itu direndam, diangkat lagi, terus diangin-anginkan di atas rak itu selama 12 hari. Yang membuat produk Tegel Kunci yang selalu terjaga dengan kualitasnya itu mungkin pertama dari bahan bakunya. Mungkin yang kedua dari namanya aja, Tegel Kunci kan itu kan warisan budaya, Mas. Ya, warisan budaya dari tahun 1927. Cara pembuatannya, proses pembuatannya itu juga bisa memperkuat image bahwa itu produk Tegel Kunci, bahwa benar-benar berkualitas.
There are many things that make Tegel Kunci continue to survive. From their strictness in maintaining the quality of the material, to the workers who are specially trained to make maximum product quality.
In terms of division, in Tegel Kunci itself, we have a few. So in the office here, we have the marketing, the sales department, and of course, finance accounting. But then in the factory, we have 3 major divisions, which is the production division, obviously, the post and pre-production division, and then the last is actually the workshop division. So the workshop division is actually the one who takes care of all the creation of the moldings, make sure the machines are working okay, all the tools are working okay. So I guess there's that. 99% of our workers are actually from within Jogja, and 85% of them are actually within the area of the factory. So all of our workers and all of our materials are locally sourced. It's not easy to do all these things. It requires a special set of skills. So usually when we have new craftsmen coming in, we would have a small training program for them to make sure that they understand the process and letting them experience it themselves. How do you start the process of creating the tile? So yes, we do have a team, and we have a program for the new craftsmen to start working and learn how to make these tiles.
Ya, yang membuat saya semangat itu ya mungkin dari tantangan itu ya, tantangan sama tanggung jawab kerja itu aja. Dalam tim kita kan pasti kita bekerja sesuai dengan deadline ya, waktu yang telah ditentukan, seperti itu. Jadi mungkin kita sudah buat schedule seperti gini, tapi dalam perjalanan ada masalah atau hambatan-hambatan itu adalah sebuah tantangan buat kita untuk lebih maju lagi, untuk lebih semangat lagi seperti itu. Saya merasa bangga dan senang bisa bekerja dengan Tegel Kunci ya. Selama perjalanan saya di Tegel Kunci itu pertama tuh saya melihat bahwa produk itu kok beda banget ya sama produk-produk yang lain ya di luar ya, seperti keramik, marmer dan lain-lainnya. Bahwa saya lihat ini mungkin produk ini bagus banget, yang dimana produk ini punya nilai seni yang patut dihargai dan dilestarikan seperti itu.
Cement tile is not a new product in the market. Changing times and the many uses of ceramics have made it difficult for Tegel Kunci to restore public interest.
We learned that this is not just a building material. This is more of a creative process behind it. So with that, we wanted to shift the market of cement tiles to just building materials into the art market. So that more and more people understands the value of each tile. What process does it make to create each tile? The creative process, the craftsmanship, everything. So I think with that, we got a lot of support from the art community, from interior designers, architects, historians, and eventually the general public also started showing more interest into the cement tile industry. We constantly try to improve, our relevancy in this ever fast-changing market, and eventually, over the past few years, we also try to spread out our wings more into the merchandise area, so that people who are interested in Tegel Kunci but doesn't necessarily need, cement tiles can also bring themselves with our family using other products. So a few years back, we started a sister brand called Kunci as a response to the enthusiasm of the market. So we put the colors, we put the patterns into different products, such as like bags you see, or scarves or blankets. So we wanted to do something new and basically hug a bigger audience with that innovation, hoping. When we started the Kunci Kreatif, our first clients were our Tegel Kunci clients, of course. But as we go now, we see more and more people who are interested in Kunci Kreatif first, and then over time learned about Tegel Kunci from Kunci Kreatif. So I think it's a positive balance between the two. Now it's starting to kind of take off by itself. But yeah, we see definitely a positive reaction and feedback from our innovation, and hoping that we can continue doing that for a long time.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on Tegel Kunci. But thanks to the effective strategy from the marketing team, the impact of the pandemic can be minimized.
Selama pandemik, karena kita memasarkan produknya lewat digital platform di Instagram, jadi kita gencar-gencarnya untuk post konten-konten, foto-foto, video-video yang isinya adalah proses pembuatan tegel, jenis-jenis tegel, dan paling sering itu adalah beberapa foto tegel di mana tegel itu sudah terpasang di rumah pribadi ataupun di tempat-tempat umum. Jadi itu supaya orang-orang tetap aware gitu dengan adanya kita di sini gitu selama pandemik, dan semua konsultasi, semua pertanyaan itu tetap kita bantu secara online di masa pandemi. PR juga sih buat kita gimana caranya untuk menjadi sesuatu yang berbeda dari kompetitor lainnya. Seperti kita menekankan bahwa Tegel Kunci punya sejarah yang panjang selama kurang lebih 90 tahun di Indonesia. Dan di Instagram itu sebenarnya kita lebih ke bercerita. Karena sebenarnya banyak banget orang yang tertarik untuk pakai Tegel Kunci, tapi mereka masih belum familiar dengan apa itu tegel semen. Jadi kita sebisa mungkin mengedukasi mereka supaya mereka tidak hanya membeli tegel aja, tapi mereka juga bisa tahu sejarah kita dan juga proses pembuatan tegel dari awal sampai akhir.
COVID-19 hit us pretty bad in the early 2020. I think most business were hit pretty bad. But I think we used that time to kind of better ourselves. But because we didn't have as much orders, we used that time to improve our factory, improve our office. So I'm glad we were able to turn that negative into something positive. So I think at the end of the day, we didn't really have to, compromise too much. We have our team in full. We were lucky that we don't have to cut down any of our team. So I'm happy with that experience, I guess. We're not complaining.
In today's era, there's still quite a lot of people who don't know about tiles and the process of making them, which takes a long time. Therefore, educating people about this cultural heritage is very important.
Miskomunikasi itu pasti ya, jadi karena saya garda terdepan untuk menghadapi customer gitu, jadi sebisa mungkin membuat mereka puas dengan apa yang kita sediakan gitu. Jadi kadang kita bilang ke tim marketing atau tim di pabrik sebisa mungkin ini cepet ya gitu, tapi kadang juga karena antrian yang banyak dan proses pembuatan tegel itu tadi yang membutuhkan waktu yang agak lama, jadi kita harus meyakinkan customer, menjelaskan kalau proses pembuatannya ini butuh waktu yang lama.
Mungkin tantangannya kalau sebagian klien yang belum tahu ya mengenai Tegel Kunci gitu kan. Kami sebagai sales konsultan harus mengedukasi bahwa untuk order Tegel Kunci itu ada prosesnya, gitu kan. Tidak bisa cepat begitu saja, gitu kan. Jadi memang saya harus benar-benar rinci dalam mengedukasi klien agar tahu produk Tegel Kunci ini. Banyak pengalaman unik yang saya dapatkan selama ini di Tegel Kunci. Mungkin contohnya satu, ada klien datang suami istri ke kantor. Mereka sangat senang melihat tegel yang ada di sini, sehingga mereka punya ide masing-masing, punya pikiran masing-masing. Sampai-sampai mereka di sini bertengkar. Ya, sebagai penengah, akhirnya kami menyarankan ini, dan mereka cukup senang dengan hasilnya. Setelah itu mereka masih marah-marahan keluar dari kantor ini. Itu sih pengalaman unik-uniknya.
Works made with love will always have a place in everyone's heart. Likewise, the products of Key Tiles.
Pada saat berkomunikasi dengan customer ya, jadi ada beberapa customer yang mereka itu Walaupun ada kompetitor Tegel, perusahaan Tegel yang lain, tapi mereka pengen tetap pakai Tegel Kunci karena istilahnya mereka sudah jatuh cinta sejak awal. Mungkin orang tuanya, mungkin kakek neneknya pakai Tegel Kunci gitu. Jadi mereka dari awal sudah tahu bahwa Tegel itu adalah Tegel Kunci gitu. Dan ada juga beberapa customer yang di luar Jogja pakai Tegel Kunci karena buat mengingatkan mereka kembali untuk kembali ke Jogja gitu. Jadi mengingatkan pada Jogja gitu. Jadi mereka butuh Tegel Kunci di rumah mereka.
Even though it's as big as it is now, rebuilding a business wasn't easy. Kirana family had to go through quite difficult times to maintain this cultural heritage in order to continue to exist in the community.
I don't think there's any sad stories during the process. We thoroughly enjoyed all the process throughout this, but I would say the first 5 to 10 years, literally no one was interested in what we're doing because at the time ceramic was such a big hit. It was faster to make, cheaper to make, easier to create by machine and everything. So no one was really looking into cement tiles. It's handmade one by one. Maybe it's a bit more expensive. No one sees the values in it. Relearning the process of how do you create a tiles, the art of creating the tiles from zero to basically trying to get ourselves back into a running industry. I think because at the core, when my parents took over Tegel Kunci, when it was literally nothing was happening, they were not in it for the business. They wanted to make sure that this important culture of crafting the moldings of the tiles itself, the generations of craftsmen who was gone through all this process is not going to go just like that. So even after the 5 years, all the investment is, it's not for the money. It was more for, their love of this industry, of this art. It's not that people were against what we were doing, but a lot of people maybe have the skepticality of, what are you doing? This is a dying industry. Why are you putting so much energy into this? Eventually, I think, as I mentioned before, we got a lot of support from the art community, from the historians, from architects, from interior designers who understood the value of what we're trying to do. And given that, I think looking back now, we're proud that those were the choices that we chose to do, and we're proud of our contribution to this whole industry.
As the successor of the family business, Kirana has her own reasons and missions when she decided to participate in maintaining the existence of Tegel Kunci.
I've grown up seeing all of this. I've grown up seeing the efforts of my parents, the energy they put in, and I don't want it to go to waste. So it has been very personal to me, a personal mission to want to continue this legacy and to make sure that this cultural heritage of Indonesia lives on, so it doesn't die just like that. And I want to be able to be a part of that journey for Tegel Kunci, for Indonesia as well. We definitely see an uptrend for the past 15 years. Before, they're close to nothing or maybe so little interest in what we're doing. But now, it makes me happy to see the growing interest, not just from those communities that I mentioned, but also the general public. We started this not just because we were in it for the business. We started this because we fell in love with the whole industry, with the process, with the art of creating cement tiles, with the value, with the history, everything. So I think it's important for me, for our team also, to constantly remind ourselves that what we do is important. Our work that we put into, it's important. We're literally carrying Indonesia's cultural heritage. It's not something that you should, take lightly about. So I think keeping that in mind really gets me going every day.
It is not only a cultural heritage that has high artistic value. Tegel Kunci provides valuable experiences and lessons for the people who work there.
Yang saya dapatkan selama saya bekerja di Tegel Kunci banyak hal, karena sebelumnya saya sama sekali tidak punya pengetahuan tentang apa itu tegel, semen. Benar-benar sesuatu hal yang baru, benar-benar pengalaman yang baru buat saya. Selama 1 tahun di sini saya sudah bisa tahu bagaimana cara membuat tegel, bagaimana proses kreatifnya, bagaimana orang-orang di pabrik mencurahkan semuanya untuk membuat tegel. Jadi tidak hanya skill aja, tidak asal membuat tegel, tapi penuh perasaan dan juga ketelitian Jadi di sini benar-benar banyak belajar hal baru sih tentang Tegel, tentang kreativitas, tentang seni juga.
Ya, banyak ya yang saya dapatkan dari selama di Tegel Kunci itu kan. Tentunya pengalaman yang tak terbatas, terus masih belajar hal-hal yang baru, seperti apa tantangan untuk ke depan, tantangan misal desain-desain baru seperti apa yang sedang tren, mungkin bisa nanti kami tuangkan di motif-motif yang baru.
Something that I've learned over the time is that when clients come to us and they say they want to use cement tiles, there is some responsibility within us to kind of also share with them and tell them the story of, cement tiles, how the process and everything, because many of the times they don't really realize the difference between cement tiles and ceramics. They are, two different products with two different materials. So a part of that is also educating the market. So I think I've learned that over time that when we're marketing something, we're also responsible for, sharing our experience and educating the market of what it is that we're selling.
As local cultural heritage, Tegel Kunci continues to grow, placing itself in the midst of society, creating a space in people's heart to then continue to survive into memories that have infinite value.
I think we're happy that for so long our tiles has been installed and used in so many important historical buildings in Indonesia. You can see it in the Jogja Sultanate Palace, you can see it Lawang Sewu in Semarang, Bangga Indonesia in Jakarta. So I think being a part of that whole process was exciting for us, and we want to continue to be a part of that. So in order to do that, we realized we need to be innovative, to always be in the minds of our, of our clients, of our customers. What it is actually we're taking everything that Tegel Kunci is and turning it into something new apart from tiles. And we want to be able to keep innovating and keep living in people's lives and mind and inspiring them with that brand, and hopefully we don't stop there. I guess the dream is so that all of our hard work lives on and that we can actually stay current in the future now. Be creative, be original, don't be afraid to start something that you truly are passionate about. Trust your heart, trust your gut, even though it might seem odd at the beginning, but I believe everything that originates from a good intention, a good heart will eventually lead in a good result as well. Preserving history, one tile at a time.